So Atlanta, we've gone by 3 full days, or probably actually 4 straight days. You've had time to rest. You had time to regroup. You had enough time to get your mind right. Now, we all know going 0-2 against the state of Tennessee in 1 week is not good. Well, at least the fans know. Some of you understand, some or most of you, the players, Atlanta United players, are from different countries. So you really don't understand. You probably don't understand how important it is not to lose to regional opponents. So for those of you who are not from the United States, and particularly the Southeast, Atlanta United losing to any team in the Southeast at any given moment, it doesn't matter if it's US Open Cup. Anytime you guys compete in a major match, not preseason match, but a major match, whether it's regular season, US Open Cup tourney, Leagues Cup tourney, whenever you play in a important major match against a Southeast opponent, it matters. It matters to the fans. It matters to the image of the team. It matters to the management. It matters to the ownership group. It matters, Atlanta United players. So, for those of you who didn't know, well, now you know by now, especially if you have a social media account. Now, Atlanta, this message is not to berate any one of y'all. I'm sure y'all get enough of that from angry fans. This message is similar to the message that I shared with Chicago last week, but it was an incomplete message. And that is the power of short-term memory. Now, the power of short-term memory is an art. It's not something that you should practice every day, constantly. It's not good to have constant short-term memory. But the art of short-term memory is you quickly finding solutions to your mistakes. And once you find those solutions to your mistakes, you move on. And the reason why you move on, the reason why you're capable of moving on, because now you're focused on the solution. The art of short-term memory causes you not to dwell on the mistakes that you made in the long term. And when you're playing in a league like Major League Soccer, where you're playing so many games in the winter, spring, and summer, and then you got to balance that with US Open Cup, Leagues Cup, CONCACAF Champions League, and then international duty. It's kind of hard for you to stay focused at time. And it's easy for you to focus or to think about the mistakes that you made, because when you make mistakes, you're wondering, how would this affect my position on my national team? How would this affect my potential salary to European teams that want me? How would this affect my position on the team? Maybe I don't want to go to Europe. Maybe I'm comfortable living in America and I love playing in MLS. But how will my mistakes affect my new contract when I meet with the ownership group or the general manager at the negotiation table? See, the art of short-term memory causes you not to dwell on what ifs. And that's why it is something that you should practice moving forward, Atlanta United. It'll truly help you. And the same goes for you, Chicago. That's the message that I wanted to send to you last week, but I got a little carried away with the house statement. Now, Atlanta, remember when I told you during your rivalry week against Charlotte that it's okay for you to label Charlotte as a rival? But you shouldn't overlook your other Southeast opponents, particularly Miami. The reason why Miami is a bigger rival than Charlotte, than Nashville, than Orlando is because the top European players view Miami as the best team in the East. When these global media outlets and platforms interview these players and they tell them, what team in the Major League Soccer would you like to play for? There's only two teams they say. And that's International Miami CF and Los Angeles Football Club. They don't mention Atlanta. Therefore, if the top European players view Miami as the best team in the East, that means the world views Miami as the best team in the East. And it's your job, Atlanta, to let the world know that Miami is not the best team in the East. I've been saying this since last year, and I'll say this again. Miami is a sleeping giant as a result of the global perception of them being the best team in the East. It's much easier for them to attract the top players like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo because of that perception. Now, once they start to take MLS serious, and once they truly hold each other accountable, I'm talking about not only the players, I'm talking about ownership group, general management, coaching staff. Once everybody starts to hold each other accountable and set a standard that is championship or bust, Miami will be unstoppable. However, there's only 3 teams in the East, 3 or 4, or maybe 5, that could catch up with Miami. And that's New York City, once the Queen's Cathedral is ready, DC United, Chicago Fire, Columbus Crew, and you, Atlanta United. Atlanta, you call yourself the king of the South. Well, you gotta show us. You have to make us believe that you're the king of the South. Because nobody in the South fears you. Nobody in the South reverence you as a king. Charlotte ain't afraid of you. Nashville ain't afraid of you. Memphis ain't afraid of you. Orlando ain't afraid of you. Miami ain't afraid of you. And if New Orleans ever get a USL championship team, I'm sure they're going to try to shoot shots at you. Birmingham, they get excited when they play you. Chattanooga, they get excited when they play you. Yeah, you may be better than those 2 clubs, but they don't fear you. Kings are feared. People don't try to poke the bear when it comes to a king. People try to stay away from the king. Therefore, Atlanta, those teams are telling you that you haven't earned your crown. You haven't put enough work in to call yourself king. Because the times that you were playing well in MLS and you were dominating the MLS, you had help from the league. You know, the league helps expansion teams. This is one of the reasons why St. Louis is performing well right now. You know, the league helps expansion teams with money and roster and DPs. So number one, you had that. You had help from Don Garber. Number 2, The other teams in the South either didn't exist or they were just babies. They were just born. I don't think Miami existed back in 2017. I'm not sure about Memphis and Birmingham and Charlotte and Nashville. Probably the only team that existed during your reign was maybe Orlando. So you see, the South has grown. And they are all also aware of how expansion teams get assistance from MLS during their first year. This is why this is the decade where we find out who the true king of the South is. And self-proclaimed kings aren't real, Atlanta. This is one thing you got to remember. Self-proclaimed kings aren't real. Whenever you play Charlotte, you get excited, you get loud, you make a lot of noise. Because you know that you're better than Charlotte. You know Charlotte is the weaker team. Charlotte is the weaker foe. That doesn't make you look like a king. That really makes you look like a bully. Because that's what bullies do. They get super excited. They make a lot of noise when they're around those who are weaker than them. But yet and still, Charlotte is still not afraid of you. So Atlanta United, hopefully you use last week's 0-2 matches against the state of Tennessee as a wake-up call and as a sign of reality that you're not who you think you are. When you play Miami this Saturday, Taylor Twellman is going to be in town. And when Taylor Twellman is in town, that means the world is watching. You're playing against international Miami. That means Lionel Messi might be watching. Why? Because he's suspended. He has more downtime on his hand now. So now he'll be able to say, okay, let's see what this Miami team is about this Saturday. Just saying. Atlanta, you have to earn your crown this decade. That stuff you did in the last decade, in 2017, the tweens, that was exceptional. That was good. But in this decade, when you're not receiving the MLS expansion stimulus package, where you have to build and work on your own, and you have more teams available to compete against that is not afraid of you, you have to earn it this decade. So let's hit the reset button and let's get it right with Miami. And there's another thing, Atlanta. I forgot to mention another team. Houston, Dallas, Austin. I know those are not Southeast teams, but those are Southern teams. And they're not afraid of you either. Take it like this, Atlanta. Whenever you play anybody in the South, Southeast, Southwest, it matters. It matters. You know, you remind me of Houston. At one point, Houston had a successful run after the team from San Jose relocated there to Houston, and they won 2 straight MLS Cup titles. Houston also received that expansion stimulus package. They were a new franchise. Houston got relaxed. They got too confident. The rest of the league caught back up with them and passed them. And that's what's getting ready to happen to you in the South, Atlanta, if you don't wake up. So hopefully you use last week's humbling. I want to say humbling, but just those 2 matches last week. Hopefully you use that as a wake up to reality.